I'm so pleased to have Ian Scrimgeour and Dorothy Close with us today from the Northern Territory Geological Survey. They've been wonderful hosts the last few days for the Aegis conference. And yes, I just want to thank them for having us all. But yes, I can't believe how much fun and excitement and what a buzz there was. So there were so many people, it must have been record attendance.
It was pretty close. We're actually not entirely sure, but it was certainly the most we've had for at least 10 years. So we had nearly 300 people there, and we would have had more except, you know, COVID and accommodation issues in Alice, but it was a great turnout. Awesome vibe amongst everyone. It was really exciting.
Yeah, I think everyone's just so happy to see each other, you know, with all these, you know, challenges. So it's nice to be face to face. She says in a Zoom conference, but anyway. Yeah.
I know, back on Zoom. But yeah, so how is the exploration sector going in the Northern Territory?
It's going gangbusters, actually. It's really taken off over the last 12 months. There was I think exploration expenditure was up 38% to like $153 million. But what we saw last year was just this incredible take up of ground across the Territory. About 440 new exploration lease applications, and people picking up ground in completely new areas. A lot of people picking up ground for lithium, for uranium. You know, there's a real emerging uranium boom coming back, which is pretty exciting for the Territory. And copper. Everyone's looking for copper, and there's a real buzz around copper in the Territory. So yeah, it's been a really busy year, and everything is trending towards a really busy year this year, which is great.
That's incredible. So I've seen that a number of majors have taken up ground here. So what sort of regions are hot property right now? Do
you want to start or will I start?
Oh, no, you go.
Yeah. I guess number one is the Barkly. And when I say the Barkly, for people who aren't in the Territory, it's the area around Tennant Creek and heading across to the Queensland border. So the Barkly tableland, which is all undercover, you know, it's just a big flat grassland, never really been explored before. That's now completely covered in tenure. People looking for extensions of the geology at Tennant Creek as it goes under the Georgina Basin, you know, at depths of a few hundred metres. So people looking for copper gold in that basement. And then also as you head further towards the Queensland border, there's really exciting potential for sediment-hosted base metals, and you know, a lot of companies picking up ground for sediment-hosted copper and zinc. And then in around Tennant Creek, there's some really exciting exploration results coming out. There's talk of a new gold mill going in at Tennant Creek this year. So that whole area is really exciting at the moment. But do you want to talk about the Greater MacArthur, maybe?
Yeah, and then on the back of, I think that there's been a real change in the amount of appreciation for the pre-competitive geoscience that Geoscience Australia and the Geological Surveys put out, and there's a huge take up of that sort of integrated data, and it's had an amazing impact on the way people are now looking at the geology in a different way and using the data in different ways. So in this thing that we call the Greater MacArthur Basin, we've seen an explosion of exploration, and I think it's going to just expand, and people are looking at a range of commodities, and this is where some of the majors are moving in, and people are looking at doing innovative work to understand the potential of the area. So yeah, this thing we call the Greater MacArthur Basin, which has potential for petroleum and base metals. So it's a basin, well, series of stacked basins that can cover a whole range of commodities, and the petroleum and the mineral explorers are kind of using each other's data to understand the potential of the area. So I think that's it's been a big change, and it's a real opportunity. So yeah, a lot of people are very interested in that area. So it's good. Yeah. And a lot of it's come out of the work that Geoscience Australia did under Exploring for the Future, with a lot of a big investment in new data. There's been new seismic that for the first time in some areas, and that's created this explosion of tenure. The drill hole that was drilled under the Minix CRC, there's Carrara 1, which is now that the new data that was released at Aegis shows the connection between the Mount Isa province and the MacArthur Basin. So people again are understanding the potential of an area that was very underloved about 3 years ago. So yeah, it's made an amazing impact. It's been wonderful. So,
I think the search space for sediment-hosted copper and zinc has just expanded so much, and there's just so much new ground being picked up. And BHP, you know, have gone in with a major joint venture with Encounter Resources in just completely greenfield sediment-hosted copper exploration. So it's pretty exciting. And the other hot area, sorry, look,
no, keep going.
You get us going, and we just don't shut up. Yeah. But the other area, I think, you know, there's a lot of excitement at the moment is around the Aileron province, and you know, so what people historically would have known as the Arunta in Central Australia. You know, for a whole range of commodities, lithium, rare earths, copper in particular. You know, hopefully we'll have a new copper mine at Jervois starting up in the next year or so. A lot of new ground being picked up there and a lot of activity.
And then the Amadeus Basin, again, we've had another kick with a lot of ground being taken up by uranium explorers. So uranium is back on the agenda. Yeah, it's one of the other major focus of some of the explorers where ground's being taken up in areas, again, that kind of had their peak and trough, and now they're peaking again. So yeah, it's very cool.
And in the Amadeus too, hydrogen and helium. There's a lot going on for that now in the Amadeus. Anyway, we'll shut up and let you ask another question.
This is good. No,
I told you we did this bad.
I'm loving it. No, it's awesome. So yeah, what was the industry particularly interested in at the conference this week?
It's an interesting question because it was such a diverse audience, and everything from oil and gas explorers to helium explorers to, you know, all of the various mineral explorers. But I guess, you know, some really key things were, everyone's talking about sediment-hosted copper. And it's kind of amazing, you know, there's been no big sediment-hosted copper discoveries in the territory yet it's just the buzz around it is really strong. So there was a lot of interest in that. A lot of interest in how to explore undercover out in the Barkly Tableland area, because there's so many companies moving in, and what are the right techniques to target in that undercover area. And I think it's going to be a lot of learning over the next, you know, year or so as companies start to drill out there and kind of work out how to best target mineralisation. You know, nickel has been a bit of a sleeper in the territory, but I think a lot of interest in nickel in Central Australia now, and IGO are doing a lot of work for nickel, and I think that'll hopefully start to emerge a bit more in the NT. Anything you can?
Yeah, lithium and rare earths is definitely the discussion point at the conference. There's a lot of people looking for lithium in Central Australia and up in the top end. So the fact that core lithium mine in the Bino area was a hot topic, and people looking for similar opportunities up in that area, but also opportunities in Central Australia. So that was a very big point of discussion.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting that we will have a lithium mine in the territory by the end of the year. It's, you know, already under construction, so a lot of excitement around that.
No, that's so good. And so I saw there was also some expansions to the resourcing the territory grants. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
No, up to you.
Well, I guess, you know, our Resourcing the Territory initiative, you know, we've been on, like most surveys, been on 4-year rolling initiatives, but government have now increased our funding to $9.5 million a year and made it ongoing. So we've got a permanently funded initiative, which is only us. I think only us and WA are in that situation at the moment. So it's fantastic for us. And as part of that, we've got this really expanded drilling and geophysics grants program. And government were keen for us to expand it into brownfields areas as well as greenfields. Yep. So we'll be, you know, we're certainly, we'll keep funding people doing greenfields drilling and big greenfields geophysical surveys, but we're also co-funding companies to drill targets beneath or adjacent to existing deposits, and also using innovative ways of targeting in brownfields areas. So there's a lot of information on the web. We're actually open for applications now, so any companies in the NT would love people to put in applications. Yeah, but no, the government's incredibly supportive of the exploration sector at the moment. So so
I'm going to see a lot of exploration success out of some of these co-funded initiatives. The focus for the government is they want to see, what is it, $40
billion economy by 2030.
So they want to, so a lot of the intention about these co-funded initiatives is that to make sure that those deposits, they get a resource size enough so that they can actually develop to a mine. So it's much more supporting resource, not resource drilling, but expansion of a known resource to make it more effective, for investment and for a mining opportunity. So it's a slight change in focus. We're still co-funding greenfields to share the risk, and we're increasing the amount that we look to co-invest with any of the successful applicants to share the risk in the greenfields areas and open up new understanding in areas that have got a paucity of geoscience. So it's up to $3 million a year that we have to co-invest with any interested applicants. But like Bunch says, go to the Resource and Territory webpage. There's a lot of information there. We're trying to make it not onerous process. So there's a couple of YouTube videos on how to do the applications. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, all get in touch. We're very keen to make this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. And so you mentioned before that there was a lot of data released at this week's conference. Is all of that on the website now as well?
It is, yeah. So all of the proceedings from ages, and there's a 187-page proceedings volume that's got.
Wow.
It's a great snapshot of everything that's going on in the Territory at the moment. So encourage people to look at that. But also what we're hoping to do is start rolling out. We recorded the presentations at ages this year, and we'll start rolling them out as webinars. So if people go to the Resourcing the Territory website, we'll have updates of and start releasing some of those presentations as well.
In the coming weeks.
In the coming weeks.
In the coming days.
Yeah. No, this has been wonderful. Well, they were most of my questions just to kick it off. But I have seen some come through already. So what's happening with potash and phosphate?
Yeah, good question. Because there's a few really big phosphate deposits in the Territory, the Wonnara and Amaroo phosphate projects. The companies that have them have been doing a lot of work around, the best. Like originally, people were looking at export of rock phosphate, but that was never, really going to work given the remote locations. So now it's the companies are looking at phosphoric acid or fertilizer production. So I think both companies have feasibility studies in progress on that kind of work. Potash, there is some potash deposits down in the southern part of the Territory that Verdant Minerals have. Not a lot of activity on that at the moment, so I don't really have much to update on that. But there's really big opportunities, I think, for a phosphoric acid or fertilizer industry in the Territory with the scale of our phosphate deposits. So hopefully we'll see some developments there over the coming few years.
Yeah, excellent. But yeah, I just wanted to firstly just thank you so much for having us all this week. I honestly had so much fun. It was so good to be in another state and with other people and seeing all the excitement and the buzz. So yeah, thank you for putting on such a great conference. It was really unreal. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I mean, for those who haven't been to ages, and probably not many of the people in the audience will have been there, but someone was describing it to me the other day that it's a bit like diggers and dealers because everyone flies in from somewhere else. So it's a massive networking event, but it's different from diggers because it's not about investors; it's all about the geology. So it's a really strongly technical conference. So everyone's welcome to come next year.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I'll be back, that's for sure. So yeah.
I guess just to add to that, what we find is, it's ages is about the Northern Territory Geological Survey letting industry know on some of our long-term projects the latest updates and results. But it's also the presentations from the industry explorers are amazing. And I think what's happened is we kind of created this safe space where it's geologists talking to geologists and talking about geology and how to solve problems or what we've learned from each other and how to explore effectively in the NC. So I think that's part of the joy of it. And everyone feels, that's why it's such a buzz, because people are happy to talk geology with each other. So
Yeah.
and they're learning. We're all learning off each other. So that government people learning off the industry learning off government. So yeah, it's really a happy space. It's fun.
Yeah. So can you give an example of what kinds of novel geophysical technologies are being deployed in the NT recently?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There was a presentation by Rob Bills in the first session on the first day, and so it's a really good question, Nick. So Tennant Creek's a bit of a tricky nut to crack, and we all know geophysics is going to be the tool that will probably crack the new discoveries going forward. And I have to say, Emerson Resources have been so clever about trying different techniques to try and solve different problems in this terrain. And the latest one they were talking about at Ages was they're using drone mag to get that really high resolution sort of coverage to pick up that subtle response from hematite sort of bodies as well as the magnetite bodies. So they're using that as a targeting tool, and it's been quite effective. So the use of the drone mag technique has been, a good tool in a tricky terrain like the Tennant Creek area. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, and I think looking at remnants in the mag around Tennant Creek is becoming really important as well. And I think showing that people haven't targeted effectively in the past because they haven't taken into account remnants. But then elsewhere, there's a lot of application of passive seismic out in the Barkly now to map depth to basement. IP seems to be something that people are really going to out in the Barkly.
3D IP is going to be the next game changer in that sort of area. So yeah. Hope that answers your question, Nick.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see if more comes through. Has there been much discussion on the lack of geologists in Australia in general?
That's a hot topic.
Lack of geologists, lack of geophysicists. And it is a real concern. And we don't have a lot of homegrown geologists here in the Territory. And we've got a lot of companies coming to us saying, we need geos, and there's just not enough around. And so it's a big issue, and it's not just geologists too. It's enough drill rigs, enough geophysical contractors. It worries me that there's so much excitement, so many people wanting to get out on the ground, but is there going to be the capacity in terms of geologists and drill rigs and everything to make it all happen? But that's an Australia-wide issue.
And on that, we're going to have some jobs advertised, the NTGS, and so please apply for our jobs. But I have a feeling that we're going to be looking for overseas applicants, really. So there's just not enough geologists in Australia at the moment. Yeah. So, very good question.
I know it's always getting brought up on GeoHug. It's you can tell that it's a concern to so many. Yeah. What is the land tenure split in the Territory?
Sorry, could you ask that again?
The land tenure split. What is that?
The land tenure.
It's tenure, sorry.
Yeah.
Need more coffee.
So I guess about 48% or thereabouts is Aboriginal freehold land in the Territory. Most of the remainder is pastoral land. And that does have an implication if you're going to explore on pastoral land. There's an expedited process under the Native Title Act, and it's quite, it's quite a straightforward process to get titles granted. It's a more lengthy process on Aboriginal land. We have to go through the Aboriginal Land Rights Act, so it does make a bit of a difference what tenure you're on in the Territory.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question of what what they wanted to know, but
are there any exciting developments in the Tanami?
It's a good question. I mean, it's been a really tough year for the tough couple of years for explorers in the Tanami because with COVID, a lot of the Aboriginal land has been kind of shut down to protect the remote communities. So it's been tough for the explorers in the Tanami to get a lot of traction in the last couple of years. There has been some work going on, but it's probably been not as active as the explorers would have liked. That said, I mean, Newmont are doing a lot. I mean, they've got their $1 billion expansion going on at the Tanami, and they keep finding more ounces than they can mine. It's just an amazing deposit that they have in the Tanami. Prodigy Gold are pretty active, and they're looking at the potential development of the Buccaneer gold deposit out near the WA border. Northern Star and Tanami Gold have put together a 50-50 joint venture to hopefully get things going in the Central Tanami project, which includes the Ground Rush deposit, which is about 1 million ounces. Newmont have the Oberon open pit resource to the north of Cali, and you know, they've applied for a mining lease over that. So we'll see what happens with the development of that. So hopefully we'll see things start to ramp up in the Tanami over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Are you looking at using trace element geochemistry of legacy drill core to assist defining halos around known deposits?
That's a really good question. I saw that coming through from Mark Roswell. Yeah. It's a really good question. So we're looking at, we're trying to look at geochemistry in a better way. So we're looking at, and some of the co-funding is for people to apply for grants for doing exactly that, Mark. So that's something that we're going to co-fund for industry. But we're also, and I hope this goes to your heart too, that we are looking at getting all our old geochemical pulps from all our old sampling and Geoscience Australia's old sampling back in the days when they BMR, and we're going to reanalyze all those pulps with a high resolution modern style geochemistry, so we get a really good consistent data set looking at a lot of that trace geochemistry, which is not available at the moment. So we're absolutely trying to upgrade that sort of data set so people have got the background and then they can focus in on the anomalies. So yeah, good question, Mark.
What was the mix between industry and like government at Aegis this year?
In terms of the presentations, if that's what the question is,
From Nick.
Yeah, about 50-50.
I think it'd be about 50-50. So what we try to do with the sessions is we try and do them on themes like geological regions, and we talk about the new stuff NTGS is doing, what our collaborators doing, and what the industry is doing. So we try and theme it around that sort of approach. So it's the new data that we're releasing, new concepts, and then what the industry's, the new techniques or what they're finding. So that's the kind of approach we have. So yeah, it'd be about 50-50.
Yeah, and with the attendees as well?
No, the attendees are predominantly industry. So of the 280 people that were there, yeah, it'd be at least 200 industry. And yeah, I think there was something like, and I don't have the final figures, but about 60 exploration companies that were in the audience. A lot of companies, because we keep the conference pretty cheap, a lot of companies send 4 or 5 geos, but yeah, it's very much an industry audience.
Yeah, and back to what Bunch was saying earlier, because everybody's away from home, which is why we have it in Alice Springs. Everybody talks to each other. You go down to the juicy rump and keep talking to each other about and do deals or whatever they want to do. So yeah, it's a really good atmosphere for the industry guys to talk to each other. So yeah.
No, well, this has been excellent. So thank you. It's always so lovely speaking with you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And yeah, just want to thank you again for such an awesome few days. So yeah, it was really fantastic. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks to you, Jess. This GeoHug is, again, just amazing. So we've had such amazing feedback from last time Bunch spoke on GeoHug. So thank you for providing the format.
Yeah.
So welcome. But no, thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks for all the great questions and contribution. And yeah, hopefully see you all again soon.